Good afternoon and welcome to our weekend sports special. Saturday sports special indeed is the weekend edition of the TalkSports program. Well, it's the first weekend in a long time that we actually have in the program on a Saturday, and due to a lot of logistics, we have had to reschedule to a Wednesday evening instead of the regular Thursday, and jostling. But the fact is, we have been having a program every week, unless something big is happening. Of course, there wouldn't be any program on the week of June 23rd because of general elections. We're talking about general elections, the general elections, and I think it's probably the biggest of its kind, probably in the Caribbean. And when it comes to after the general elections of the country, it always has to do with the general elections when it comes to the Grenada Football Association. And come Saturday, June 11, the affiliates, remember what I'm telling you, the affiliates of the Grenada Football Association, not John Public, but the affiliates will be casting their ballots, will be determining who are the best men and women for leadership of the Grenada Football Association for the next 4 years. So forget all about the endorsements and blah, 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 and things like that. So, and what social media is saying, but we have to know what the affiliates of the Grenada Football Association they are saying. So what I decided to do, because TalkSports is not just one-off, because the incumbent, meaning the president of the Grenada Football Association, the vice president, and one or two others of the current administration, they have been on the program before. I decided to offer an invitation to the challenger or the team of challengers. In fact, there were one or two on the other team who would have been on the program before as well. But I decided to make that offer to invite them to be on the program to hear what they have to say regarding their plans for football for the next 4 years. Well, as indicated, and the disclaimer that someone claiming to be the spokesperson, I reached out asking for a spokesperson. I did it in a formal way, and they declined the offer. They said after consultation, blah, 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 they don't feel it's fit. But that's besides the point, because eventually they did other interviews. So I gather from that, it seems to be more personal than professional. There has to be a personal issue rather than a professional issue. And I need to say that so that folks do not believe that I am favoring one over the other. Even before making an invitation to the incumbent, offering the incumbents an invitation, I reached out to the challenger. So I wanted to make that clear. So without any delay, let me introduce to you, no stranger to the program, the incumbent president of the Grenada Football Association. He is Mr. Cheney Joseph, and Cheney Joseph has joined us to speak about probably the accomplishments of his administration and why he thinks that the affiliates of the Grenada Football Association should give him another term in office as president of the Grenada Football Association, and possibly his team, I should say. Why? So again, I'm saying forgetting all about the endorsements and what have you, because it is now a situation where the affiliates are making the decision as to who will, run the affairs of football in Grenada. Let me once again introduce Mr. Cheney Joseph, the president of the Grenada Football Association. Cheney, good afternoon to you.
Hi, Mike. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to all of your viewers, listeners, people in social media world, the football fraternity, and most importantly, our delegates, 22 of them, that will be determining the fate of football for the next 4 years. Good afternoon to each and every one of you, and it's a pleasure being on your program once more.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned affiliates, and you said 22. So come June 11, and if we really jump ahead, give us a breakdown of what will actually take place June 11th, or even between now and June 11th, but specifically summarizing with June 11th?
Okay, so I suspect, from my perspective, I am still the president of the Grenada Football Association, and I'm expected to perform that role until the end of the annual general meeting. And thereafter, the electoral committee will take charge and they will convene the election for the offices. It's 11 positions vying for. And once that is complete, they will announce the persons forming the new executive. Between now and then, I continue to touch base with all of our clubs, even those who are not likely to be delegates, because as you probably know, and just for the benefit of your viewers, the 22 delegates comprises of the 10 Premier League, each having one delegate, and there are 4 conferences, namely Southern Conference, Central Conference, Eastern Conference, and the Northwestern Conference. Each of these 4 conferences will have 3 delegates, making it 12. So 12 plus the 10 Premier League, these 22 individuals will determine what they desire for football in the next 4 years.
So there's nothing as dissolution of the GFA executive or anything like that. There's continuum.
Yeah, it's continuum.
Okay, and as you say, for some reason, Cheney, there was always this feeling that there were more affiliates of the Grenada Football Association in terms of the votes and things. Why is just 22? 22.
All right. So let's just do a bit of perspective on where we are. We have 36 clubs currently active in terms of Grenada Football Association. We have, from the last time when there were all of the clubs in council, it was 39. 3 of those 39 clubs have not been active for the last few years, so they do not really have a voice in council. When I say a voice, meaning a vote. But from the 22, as I indicated, 10 Premier League now are assured of having a vote at our meetings. And then the 12 delegates comes from the 4 conferences, 3 each. Now, one might argue the point, why did we do that? And I have seen on social media and other places discussions along that. Let me just say something, just for the younger people who have been all excited on social media and not knowing a bit of the history of football and where we are today and how we got here. My last election with a competitor was against Bruce Swan. I think that was 2014, somewhere there. And we ran a clean campaign, Bruce and and I got 33 of the 39 votes. However, some members of the council requested change in the constitution. And FIFA delegation came to Grenada, I think 3 persons. They met with stakeholders, including match officials, players, referees, club administrators, the general public. They met with the media. They met with all different persons, including the executive. And after those consultations, a group of persons, and I may miss some of them, including Paul Roberts, Ricky Aberdeen, Max Toussaint. These are 3 names I could recall for sure. Bruce Swan, I think, was one of those. The council then chose a smaller group to meet with the FIFA delegates to discuss specific changes to be made. Now, the president of the association does not have such a clout. He cannot make changes to the constitution. The most he might be able to do is recommend changes. And coming out of that consultation, the clubs met and they voted in July of 2017, I think the 7th of July, and they decided they wanted the changes to the constitution. I must admit to you, I was resistant to it simply because I had 33 votes out of 39. I mean, I wanted to enjoy that kind of support, and I was given the opportunity to interact with clubs on a one-on-one,
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was changed, and we came up with this thing which I just spoke of. And amongst it, these four conferences now were supposed to have active executive committees where the executive committee was supposed to be running the affairs of football in those conferences. I must admit, and let's not be too unfair to anyone, they did not really fulfill all of the expectations of this conference structure. And what eventually happened is that some of the presidents then used it to their own advantage and much was starting to use persons whom they thought were in line with them or against the president. And the football was affected and has been affected. So the change, however, as justified by those members, were too often outside of an election, not enough people were attending meeting, or we would have to wait long for the meeting to start. And so they said, let's have a smaller amount to form the quorum. But I was saying simple, and I still maintain that. If you are seeing trouble with the numbers in attendance, the easiest thing to do is simply say that the meeting shall be convened by such and such time. And if within a such specific time of the same day, there isn't a quorum, those in attendance can continue to have the meeting and the meeting is considered quorated. That's all we had to do. So we didn't have to change numbers and create this thing. Now, my opponents, I would like to refer to them as, would sometimes seem to forget history. But the good news about this particular individual speaking to you here, Michael, is that I don't get rid or discard information. And so the minutes will reflect that I probably was one of a few people. Paul Roberts was one also, who was against the conference idea. And in fact, I always just say to Ram folks in particular when we speak, folks say this conference thing never was good. I say, but folks, I mean, Fontenoy voted in support of it. And he said, never, that would never happen. And I shared with him the minutes of the meeting. And he said, but I don't understand. How come? Maybe we got it wrong. So I just say all of that, as part of my answer to you regarding how we got here. And it has been, going fairly okay most of the time. But I must say to you, the Constitution will have to be rewritten again, whether it is this group, my group, which is the Unity Team, or any other group. I think they are called the Resistance Team. Whether it's them or us, I think my recommendation strongly is there would be some changes needed. But there's another problem, I think, that has created some of our current structure or issues in Grenada. I do not believe in dictatorship. However, when you take away too much powers from the person who should be leading the organization, you are clipping his wings and asking him to fly. And the Constitution is kind of weird, whereby the president, and I don't know if persons on the outside looking in would notice, the kind of involvement the president may have had in the past compared to this last term is because of the statute. And I'm one who is big on respecting the statute. And hence the reason why you would recognize that the president is the one with the vision, but still for almost everything that has to be done, it has to be done by the group, which is the executive committee.
So is there an indication then that the group around you, Cheney, is not a cohesive group, and for probably that reason why you now campaign on a unity team? And I'm saying that because, I don't think there's any GFA administration that went ahead, probably in recent time, I should say, without some level of controversy. And you yourself has been one who has been, involved in, in controversial administration, I should say, where no confidence and, all these sorts
I've survived a few, by the way.
Well, I would say that, luckily but are you suggesting, therefore, because of the construct of the Constitution, for example, as you indicated, and you say that a leader who is has a vision, but as they say, expected to fly almost like visionless? Is it because of the group of people around you that you also taking it to the level that in moving forward, I need to have a unity team?
Yeah. Well, I'll be very honest to you. Football administration, in order for it to be successful, you can't have 11 persons coming with different perspective, then deciding when they get there, oh, we'll try to work together. It doesn't work. If a national team is training, I come from a team sport. In order for our teams to do well, in national teams in football, they must train together consistently, whether it is on tactic, technique, whatever. And then they go out there based on the coach philosophy and they execute and seek to get a result. Unfortunately, and I will have no stones, I mean, sorry, I will hold back on nothing I'm saying here today, once it's not libelous. Um, we are where we are because of how we started this last term. An individual who was once a vice president, a first vice president, ran in a fair election and lost. And I might add that even before he lost, he contested and challenged the Electoral Commission, telling them that they were wrong in their decision to consider the nomination of one of the candidates. And even after he lost, and he was the second VP, from there on, he led what he called a resistance movement. And I must say to you, I don't even know why I stayed into this football with this gentleman in particular, leading what I call to be a controversial 4 years in office. 3 months after, he tried to get rid of me from the office. Thereafter, when I was reinstated, he indicated that football will not be governed easily, and he led a group of 5. Well, God have it that way that at least one of the 5 persons was able to see the light of day. And as the person says often, Mr. Blair, I'm talking about, as he says often, these men threw me under the bus and I felt the wheels crushing me and I had to move out. And I said to Mr. Blair, I've always felt he was a good guy in football. He means well for football, but his focus, unfortunately, because he was not the leader of the bunch, he had to just follow. And he says that it's the first time since almost 5 years that he feels now like he is himself. And he's been able to come back and make major contribution. In fact, in the last 3-4 months, I have been pleasantly surprised at the amount of work that Mr. Blair in particular has been doing in St. Andrew, trying to get football to grow further. So I say all of that just to say to you, I then looked around the football fraternity and saw persons, one, who has a love for the game, because it's not just about wanting to serve, who has a love for the game, has passion, who has knowledge of the game, and who are keen to work together. And so we formed what is referred to as the Unity team. And I must very early say that the Unity team is a very good team. We have in that group Alan James, who has, oh my God, tremendous qualities as a team player. Many would like for him to be defiant, but he understands what is group dynamics. Then we have Jelani Glean running also as a vice president. Jelani is with Eagles. We then have coming from the north, just the Noel, one of the incumbent, and I might add, 7 of the 11 members of the current executive are on board with me. So there's the opportunity for continuity up front. Then we have St. Mark, Wayne Francis, St. John, Charlton, Chassis Henry. He's the president of St. John Sports. St. George, we have Seymour Redhead, who is a former national player, former national goalkeeper coach, and is an administrator in Fontenoy, one of the most successful youth program going on now. Seymour and Fontenoy is doing it. There are many others, but
and just a thing on Seymour Redhead, because I don't want to miss that. I recall on one of my programs with Mr. Ashley Ram Folks, who I respect dearly for his knowledge of football. He had a special, probably I think 5 or 10 minutes that he dedicated in that program just to Simo Redhead and his passion and his for football. Okay, and he talked about a young man who he sees has a great future ahead of him in terms of football administration, etc. So I'm glad that you will probably get in some of
Simo,
the
I
Simo
must say to you, I mean, I hope my opponents don't feel uncomfortable. I'm so glad that we got the best of the team. So as I was saying, we had Simo for who's gonna run for St. George, and we have Leon Radix, who has, oh my God, one of the, if we had this year a prize for a club that has made the most strides as an organization, I think St. David's FC would get that with ease. The amount of work they have done, they have gone beyond what I expect of any sports club. In fact, I think they have a big cruise again. They had one just the other day. They have another one coming, all in an effort to raise funds for the club. They have secured sponsors. They have. They did not 3 years ago. They didn't even have a second team. Now they have 4 teams training at different age group level, and I understand they're doing the women. And then we have Mr. Peter Blair, the incumbent, and the stalwart from St. Andrew. So that's basically the team on the mainland. And on the sister isle, we have Luther Rennie, who has been, I mean, tremendous. He's been what I call a balancing act throughout the process. So,
But don't
pretty
you
much,
have a? I'm not sure if I missed.
I missed one. My apology. I think they say you always save the best for last. Our women's director, Kazira Thomas, is the president of St. David's FC. I cannot describe her. Simply, anything good you can call associated with Kazira's name. Kazira is a youth leader. She's an artist manager. She is a group coordinator. She is currently doing her master's program in project management. She loves women's football. She's volunteered. I mean, I was surprised the other day. I was in their tournament about 2 or 3 days. I mean, 2 or 3 times I visited. And even though she's president, she's not caught up with the title. She was there putting down flag, picking up empty bottles. She was there serving drinks, everything. And, these are the kind of people that we have on our team. And I must say to you, I anticipate the support coming from the clubs will be tremendous.
Okay, well, I just as how I added to Simo ahead and what Ashley Ramfolk said regarding to Simo in terms of his future. I can say that for Kasira, I get to know Kasira through even when she at a very young age, and her involvement not just in football, even before football, her involvement for youth empowerment, the involvement for sports in general, things like that. So, and she has this drive, she has this energy. She doesn't allow, the challenges. In fact, I think she's inspired and motivated by challenges and obstacles. So
Yeah.
that is what I can say about Kazira. In terms of that.
But
So when I
what
saw
I
her
want to
name,
say to you, Mike, just to add a little bit quickly, she offers the same kind of enthusiasm, not just in football. In netball, she's active, very active also. But more importantly, she is involved in a lot of group activities in both St. David and St. Andrew. And you can see it's something natural about her. And I think one of the observation I've made, because I am a guy who likes to look and observe, it seems like she's just naturally a people's person, and she's a great listener. And a few times we've gone around the country campaigning. Um, I listened to her how she speak, and she seemed to be keen to engage persons as much as she can in whatever she wants to do, together with what we will propose as ideas and opportunities to grow women's football in Grenada.
okay,
As we speak about women's football, quickly though, maybe it's the best time to mention that it's ironic that the other side, the resistance team, as they refer to themselves, they have indicted the current women's director for football. And I say indicted, meaning that the leader of that group said that if you look at women's football, it's at the lowest ever. He's not too sure that there's even women's football taking place. Well, I might make it even further, and that's what I was telling you earlier on about the constitution and its need to be changed. It's the first time ever we had a women's director who chose not to allow the president to attend one meeting of the women's committee in 4 years. I have volunteered, and
okay, so
she has chosen not to. So I guess that's a reflection of where we are.
okay, well, you said quite a lot there, and I know you speak in you know, should I say, to two audiences in this context. You're updating the public, and as well as you're speaking to the affiliates of the GFA who basically will make that determination in terms of leadership of the GFA come June 11th. Okay, but Cheney, how confident are you that you have what it takes, and I'm talking about your team, your Unity team, to be successful at the polls and lead the GFA into a next term in office?
So a simple answer is very, very confident. And it's ironic. You are probably about the 99th person who has asked me the question in the last 4 or 5 days. I mean, I don't know some of these people who's been coming out to me and asking me that question. And I will say something to you, Mike, even before I answer you. It's the calmest I've ever felt since I've been president of football. And that calm comes with, a certain level of confidence in the quality of persons who are delegates. Notwithstanding the hype, the delegates are the ones who have experienced what we have been doing in football. Some of it is the initiative of the executive, some of it is the initiative and wishes of the general council. So I'll just say for you, Grenada is 100,000 persons, right? We have a minimum of about 22 different sports on the island. 16 of those 22 sports are members of the Grenada Olympic Committee. And I was speaking sometime recently to someone in basketball, and the person said to me, you guys in football seem to be too aggressive. You guys are taking almost every every young kid, and causing them to want to play football and nothing else, male as well as female. And I think that's bad for the sport. Well, we are here to grow the sport. And I will say to you, Mike, whether or not my opponents have been finding the time to do due diligence, there is approximately, and that's my guess, about 2,000 kids kicking football different parts of the country every Saturday. They just need to do some more inquiry. However, I'm saying at present we have about 150 coaches with D license. We have another 70 something coaches who did from the primary schools who did the D license. Some of them did the E first and then the D. We have had a first batch of 30 coaches who did the C license, and then about 2 months ago, we had another 25, I think it was, doing the C license. So that makes it about 55 of them with the C license. We have about 5 of them currently with the B license. And I will say something to you, what many people needs to know. We were on a lockdown for almost 2 years, whether or not we accept it, almost 2 years, in that sport and many other things were affected. And many of the countries around the world were affected, whereby people could not even go and congregate more than about 2 or 3 persons in any one area. And many of our technical programs were affected. And so how we sought to help out our coaches, we did many online coaching courses for our local coaches. We have been in conversation with the Ministry of Education. In fact, the Ministry of Education had agreed that we will extend on the coaching program to include those teachers who have just an interest in it. We have gone out to ask many of our clubs to also be part of coaching programs, and they have been part of it. But more importantly, we have sat down, and the government, through both the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Sport, we have signed off on an agreement to develop coaching, coaching education as part of our future development. We went on to employ a coaching educator who is going to be responsible for making sure that as many persons who have an interest in coaching football will gain the necessary knowledge to do so. One of the things we have done, however, and we are going to continue to do, is we are trying to work closely with child protection and the police to make sure that persons who are going to become coaches are properly vetted. And we are not going to go for numbers, but we are going to go for quality. In addition to that, I just wanted to let everyone know we started a program with the Czech Republic. And with the Czech Republic, we sent off 3 coaches to Czech Republic. They were supposed to have returned to the Czech Republic, and then there was a change in administration there. So we then went out to both Argentina and Romania. Romania football president has agreed to us doing that. And then just when we were to sign off on an agreement and to select the first batch of coaches to go to Romania, the war started between Ukraine and Russia. And the president there of Romania football asked us to delay the start. In the case of the Argentine Football Association and the government, the ambassador for Grenada, who's residing in Trinidad, came to Grenada and met with myself and others. We sat down and we made all the plans. And then a little after that, there was a change of government in Argentina, resulting in us having to restart. We have started the process, and because of the closeness of the election, we felt to ourselves that it may not be in the best interest of anyone that we send these persons off to Argentina within a short space of the election being called. Hence the reason we've agreed to stop and to do it after. But I will add further, Michael, Jane Ellis is is a household name in women's football. If no one knows Jane Ellis and they are involved in football, especially at the women's level, then you have a problem. This lady offered to come to Grenada. All we had to do was to pay ticket, accommodation, and take care of her transport and meals. And we offered that to the women's committee through the women's director, and that was refused. We also had Kim Fullerton, who is a qualified coach in the US, offering to come to Grenada to assist our youth team that went off the other day, the one that my opponent says got 20. Kim Fullerton offered to come to Grenada at least 3 months before, help with our preparation, because he was aware of a lot of the players for the US and the Dominican Republic. He was aware of them because they are part of his daughter's team.
Okay, so I was about to say Kim Fullerton you're referring to is a Grenadian, right?
Yeah. Kim Fullerton is Melania's dad. And he even went further to say to us, well, we can find you accommodation almost at $0. We are prepared to allow for you to have the girls' team come up at least 2 weeks before and let them play against some of the teams in Texas. That information I also conveyed to the lady not 2 weeks before. I'm talking about almost 4 months ago. And she refused it also. So I'm not surprised at some of the things that has happened. But I'm saying all of that to say to you, we just sent off 3 kids to Germany in an elite program. They came back, and I'm told, I have not seen any of them play yet. I'm told that the football has changed tremendously. That program, which is the next generation, is something we're going to continue, where we're going to try to increase the amount of kids we're going to send off to Germany to train. We are currently in discussion with 3 football ambassadors in the UK, one being a former professional player named Gifton Noel, Angus Douglas, and Stuart Adams. And they themselves have been in contact with some professional clubs in the UK, and they are also in contact with our, I always get it wrong, not ambassador, how you call it, high commissioner in the UK, whereby some of our kids will go off to get exposed to training there. I will say to you, Michael, I am supportive of us getting our coaches to the next level, but I also believe one of the things that we need to do, and we're trying to do, and we will get it done, is to identify our talent at age 12, 13, 14, send them off to be exposed to the proper training where everything is available, and to ensure that those kids we were trying to get to represent us at age 20, 21, 22 are already involved in the system in professional settings much earlier at age 13, 14, as I said to you. And those conversations are taking place. Even as I speak to you, we have been offered a program in the Netherlands through one of the persons that we were hoping to select as the national coach, Remco, whereby some of our players and coaches, players meaning at the youth level, and coaches will get to go to the Netherlands to experience how they develop youth football and come back and then, impart those knowledge here in Grenada. I am not scared about what we are doing. I'm highly satisfied that we have been going in the right direction. We are not making a cup of coffee, neither are we making lemon juice. And so I know it's about time. In fact, my executive will tell you, the majority of them, including those on the other side, on the resistance movement, that many of them say that, President, you're moving too fast. And I must admit to you, I find we're moving too slow. But I had to accept the fact that members wants to feel part of it. So we've slowed down a lot in terms of how we get things done. And I think the majority of Grenada is seeing what we are doing, what we've done. And if you
Okay.
compare us, quickly, Michael, before you continue, if you were to compare us, I would not compare Grenada with the United States, neither would I compare Grenada with Jamaica or Trinidad for more than one reason. If I was to compare Grenada with the United States, I will then have to ask myself, how can we make that comparison? The government of the United States gives the US soccer support. The US soccer has financial resources beyond our expectation. In the case of Jamaica, the government of Jamaica is deeply involved in the development of sports. They export sporting talent. But more importantly, when we look at the national teams, whether it was Jamaica or Trinidad, except my opponents have not been awake, you look at the results of Grenada versus Jamaica, Grenada versus Trinidad and Tobago over the last 10 to 12 years, and you check the results. Don't let me say it here today. Go back. It's the easiest thing to find. And you will see the results of Grenada versus Jamaica, Grenada versus Trinidad and Tobago. However, I am agreeing with my opponents that they have a lot more population size than us. Jamaica, I believe, is about 1.9 million. Trinidad is about 1.3 million. Grenada is 100,000, fitting in somewhere inside Port of Spain, and still there will be space.
Okay. We have quite a few things to discuss, and I really want us to get that. But let me say good afternoon to some folks there. Thank you, Gordon, and good afternoon to you as well, Thompson Kado, and Mr. Edwin Sam, New Jersey. I know you're waiting on some football, some track and field, all of that is a very heavy sporting weekend. There's also a comment here, resistant and unity sounds like if it is the same workshop grinding out the mechanization in sports as in politics, pro and con. Hope the competing remains positive. I know of individuals up to this day who are not on speaking terms in their graveyard days because of keen competition. Don't allow this election to sink that low. And I fully agree with that, because it's sad that even in sports administration, we have this sort of petty and immature behavior among some folks. We need to have, primary and secondary school football competition. So there's quite a few comments, and we'll get back to a few, but I need to get some things there to you regarding And if you can put it in a nutshell, actually has to do with one, the status of the Hillsborough Town Football Club and their application status, because I know I've had Trevor on this program before and he spoke about that. He spoke about it sometime last year as well. And also the status of domestic football. Why no does domestic football is played at this time? If we can try to put that in a nutshell, because I have some more questions to you, Chen.
Yeah, so quickly, any applicant applying for membership of the GFA, the General Council at the annual general meeting is the one that will make a determination on whether or not to accept the application. I know for a fact that they did apply around, I think, 2019, 2020, and it was not brought forward to the council. The reasons I cannot give. I am hopeful that if I will follow up, with the general secretary to find out the status of their application, but I see no reason why we cannot support at least one or two clubs from Carriacou being part of our family as members. With that being said, I would personally hope that what we can probably try to encourage is that the members who are playing in the Carriacou competition, if we can encourage each of them to form into clubs. So even if they cannot be, what should I say, daily participation in competitions in Grenada, because it's going to be costly for either one of them, whether it's the teams on the mainland or otherwise. If we can encourage at least 6 or 8 of those Carriacou teams to apply for.
Okay. I think we may have just lost Cheney's video for a while. Yeah, he's in St. George's. I think I have his audio, but just for him to get his video back up. But it's important. By the way, folks, if you just join us, the reason I have Mr. Joseph is because I have also extended an invitation even before, inviting the incumbent president to be on the program, and for some reason there was a declination on the part of the other team. Well, I didn't even know that it was the Resistance, but I guess as much why they are the Resistance. But no love lost. My thing is just about sports. I'm not there in this personality and ego and things like that. So I'm just there to discuss sports. I mean, my disclaimer is that I've known Cheney, for many years. We grew up together, etc., and there's no reason why we cannot remain friends. That does not, in any way interfere with what is personal friendship and a professional. Cheney will tell you there are times we don't agree with each other on issues, okay? And that is part of the professional life we do have, and if the other side believe that, it's all about friendship, etc., I have no problem with that. It's just a sad situation we have when it comes to sports administrators in Grenada, especially in Grenada, because it's all about ego, it's all about personality, and it's not about the professional aspect of what you're doing. Hey, you can be friends, you don't have to be friends, but when it comes to what you have to do, you do it. I think we back to Mr. Joseph. Yes, Cheney, and you were making that important point there.
So I was saying what I would personally wish is if we could encourage. We do not have different status of membership. In some countries they have what you call affiliates, and then you have honorary members, and I forgot the other one. But what I believe is most likely the best thing to do is to encourage maybe more than one team from Carriacou to try and encourage them to be part of the family. And the only reason why I say that is quickly, if that one team in Carriacou is received into the GFA, when it comes to playing competition, they will have a huge cost. On an average, let's just say 23 players or 23 persons, including players and coach. That would be 23 by 2. That's almost $5,000 already just for travel, and then you will have to deal with accommodation, ground transport, meal, and it could be a heavy sum. But I'm not sure if there will be enough clubs who can find $4,000 to $5,000 every match they have um, to play
Yeah.
against a Carriacou opponent.
Okay, so you basically, I understand the reasoning there, but it's something that you hope to
But I
look
do
into.
support the
Yeah,
application.
right, and also at the same time encouraging what you call league football in Caracol, something that's
Correct.
league football, the Grenadines involved, etc., etc.
Correct.
Domestic football, Cheney, what's the situation regarding domestic football? Quickly.
Well, it's very unfortunate. Thank God we have a great final on tonight. The Pure Grenada Cup is one of the better tournaments I think Grenada has seen and will continue to be. I do agree with some persons who say we should also take it to the age group level and so have the same tournament mirror at age 13, 15, 17, 19, and then the seniors so that players can see a pathway. That the final for that takes place tonight. St. Patrick plays against St. Mark. St. Patrick was the first ever winner. St. Mark, I think, was the second winner. Yeah. So winners number one and winners number two will be playing. And then last year's winner is playing in third place. That's St. Andrew playing St. George. St. George's is yet to reach the final. Let's hope that, in fact, it's only three teams have really played in the final. St. Patrick, St. Mark, and St. Andrew. The others have been competitors, and hopefully they'll get there one day.
Okay. Yeah,
Domestic
go ahead.
club football at the youth level had restarted once we got permission to play again. So we completed the U19 boys competition, we completed the U15 boys, and we're going to restart soon again. We had the parish under 14 tournament. That was a great tournament. We had St. Patrick won that, I think. Yes, St. Patrick won over St. John. We are coming with the U12 and U10 competitions, both at parish and intra-parish. The conference, two of the conferences are yet to complete. There are issues I don't want to discuss here because one of them, I think, is before the disciplinary committee that's in the Central Conference. Combined Northerners, Fontenoy, Hapiel are the top three teams, I think, there. And there's some issues, I think, in the Northwest. But I think Shamrock was leading that. The Eastern Conference, SCFL and St. David's FC emerged. And in the Southern Conference, I believe Police and GBSS emerged. Now, the Premier League, we, on a million and one occasion, we tried to get the Premier League to restart. The resistant movement led the resistant, and it was stalled. Then they asked for more money. We explained to them what we could do. They didn't like the amount. We then agreed on the full amount, and then they said that we will need 3 weeks to train. So let's see if it will restart after the Pure Grenada Cup ends this weekend. So hopefully, the Premier League could be starting sometime around the 7th of June thereafter.
Okay. Yeah, some questions I need to get to you. Let me see. Roger. Okay, always fair and impartial, keep up the good work, bro. Yeah, well, I say it as it is when it comes to that. I don't, yeah. Let me see. Rondell Frederick Johnson, Cheney Joseph is a proven leader. Football in Grenada has grown leaps and bounds, and I expect this trend to continue going forward. Good luck in the election. We'll come back to that in a moment, because I want you in at least 2 minutes, Cheney, if you can tell me and speak to your affiliates, okay? And I want to get that before we actually end the program because we have some other questions there, but that part in particular. Why do you think affiliates of the Grenada Football Association or the GFA, okay, should vote for you and your team for a next term in office, Jenny?
All right, the very first thing I will say to the members is thanks for the opportunity that was provided before. However, the other reason is, one, I assure you that if you were to support the Unity team and gave us a clean mandate, you can assure yourself that football in Grenada will be almost incident-free for the next 4 years. Besides that, when you look at the individuals individually, you will see the quality of individuals who are offering themselves to serve under my leadership. In addition to that, our track record speaks for itself. We had something called a strategic plan. This is the document here. This strategic plan is what determines what we do in football. That strategic plan has 6 pillars, and we have been following it. So, for example, there's so much things I would want to say, but if I can speak fast, apart from the coaches, as I said to you, we have 2 CONCACAF coaching instructors also. Besides that, we also have 5 persons who are certified to conduct coaching sessions in Grenada. In other words, issue the D license and C license. In terms of infrastructure, we did not go to Montrouge or Tantine with the lights and bleachers as was proposed by some of the members on the other side. I said to them that the government said in the last poverty survey that St. Patrick was the poorest parish, and I felt football could have contributed. So we went up there and invested almost $6.3 million out of the 12 million the member is speaking of in lights and bleacher. In addition to that, though, we have provided support to Queen's Park Rangers facility there, and help them to upgrade the light that we are using now in GFA. We spent over $39,000 in helping them put lights there. We have provided goalposts and benches and equipment and other things to all clubs across the border. We have given uniforms to all of the clubs. We've bought a set of grassroots uniform, given it for free. Balls, equipment, the rest of it for free. Besides that, every single 36 member in GFA 3 years ago started with $10,000. We gave them as an upfront start to prepare for their football development, including grassroots and youth football. And last year, we gave them $15,000. And from 2021 onwards, we moved to $20,000. And that is support directly to each of these clubs. Apart from that, we've been supporting every parish league with football at the conference level, even minor league football. We sponsor many minor league. For example, in Rose Hill, we sponsor minor league in St. George. When I say sponsor, we give financial contribution to those. Apart from that, too, we wrote off $168,000 that was advanced for Hard Rock to participate in the Caribbean Cup Championship. They could not pay us back. We wrote off $168,000 that we could have used elsewhere. We have introduced more competition into football than we've ever before. We have football at all different age group level. We are going further down with it, and we are seeing more players emerging. I can say to you, contrary to what was said about Grenada losing all the games at the youth level, I challenge you to go back because there are videos to be seen. Our national under 20 and under 17 boys, as well as our under 15 boys, have been consistently improving from the first year that CONCACAF introduced these tournaments that we were participating in. And if we were to use the last 5 or 6 years, you will see the results of that. What I will also say is that there are many more Benjamin Etienne in the woodworks that we are working right now to make sure that they will make serious inroads into professional football. I am certain about that. Some of them we are going to be sending off to colleges. We are paying, as we speak now, for at least 6 boys and about 4 ladies. We are paying annually. We are supporting their schooling there. These athletes, I won't call their name, but they know themselves, and they know. I'm not talking about giving no $100 or $200. I'm talking about thousands of dollars we are supporting them with. I think our biggest problem in the GFA really, and I say that every time I go to an executive meeting, nobody knows what you are doing because you are not saying what you are doing. And then the only time they hear about what you're doing is when someone criticizes you and you have to defend it. But more importantly, I am assuring the members of the GFA, the clubs, that I have been consistent in my leadership. I've been impartial. And more importantly, you, the clubs yourself, have seen the benefits directly. What we want to do is improve further with our relationship with the primary and secondary schools. We want to work closer with the ministries and the government, whoever is that government that's going to be in office after June the 3rd. And we want to say to them,
That's June 23rd, eh? Yeah.
June 23rd, sorry. And let us talk about how we can create a set of professionals in the sport. In fact, my colleagues in the Olympic Committee will tell you what I have said in recent times. We must set ourselves a goal. By such and such time, we want to export X amount of homegrown footballers to international market. And I will say to you, I believe we have the talent. It's unfortunate, and I just say it quickly, it's unfortunate that our technical center was promised to us more than 4 years ago. And we happen to have been one of the first to start the process for the technical center. And it's only ironic that it took us that long. And in the last month, all of a sudden, it seems like discussions on the technical center have been going faster than it was for the last 4 years. But I want to say to the members also, there's something called loyalty. Loyalty and trust are two things that you need to understand. People trust people they know. And I will say to you, more importantly, it is very important that we continue with our vision as an organization to work to develop football here in Grenada. I believe I'm capable with my connections, with my vision for football, and I believe we will, in fact, move to the next direction. I'm confident of the results on June 11th, but I do not want to be complacent, and therefore I will be meeting with clubs within the next 5 to 7 days. And oh, Michael, I wouldn't want your program to end before we recognize that Grenada Football Association is one of only 12 out of 41 countries, or Grenada, sorry, is one of 12 out of 41 countries that is in League A of CONCACAF, the big boys, as we call them, right? Hence the reason why we will be playing El Salvador here on June 7th. And we expect a large crowd to attend. I'm using this as an opportunity to invite the general public, come out there, support our guys. It is an opportunity for us to do well. And we have the United States coming on March 23rd next year, another big game. As we say, come hang with the big boys, our local boys. Our challenge with not knowing some of our players has nothing to do with the quality of the league. The reality is, and I agree, I was speaking to a former national player just recently, Bondi Charles. We must empower our local stations. We should invest more in our local stations so that, for example, Real FM, it's a station that highlights local football in Grenada. We should spend more money and partner with these associations so that they can come and broadcast some of our matches. And before I go, I want our members, the 22 delegates, to know, and even the other 14 who will be part of our council after June the 11th. The Grenada Football Association recently signed an MOU and a contract with FIFA under FIFA Plus. And so we can anticipate close to $3 million coming in from the time we start, let's say within a next year and a half, for our clubs that will be highlighted indoors. I am confident those money will go straight back into you and your club development, and we would expect that you would be able to invest more in coaching, education, and the rest of it. And I just say in advance, thank you for the support you have given, and thank you for the commitment to continue with the football development here in Grenada. Grenada is by far one of the most leading associations in CFU. If you compare us with the 32 members, I am certain almost 10 or 12 of our programs have been taken and refashioned and used by some of the 31 members. In fact, I can speak to that because I speak to these presidents and they call me to ask for additional information on how to proceed with some of our own programs. For example, Grenada is the first country to introduce club development fund, almost mirroring the FIFA forward. So just like FIFA is giving us money, we say we're not going to keep it. We are giving it back to the clubs. Mike, I just want to say something to you.
Just before you say something to me, let me just ask you, because time, but do you have an extra at least 15 minutes to the program?
Yeah, I can give you next 30 minutes if you want.
No, I said 15 as because I have one or two questions that came up there and I wanted to throw it to you, but I wanted you to make the point. I wanted you to refresh a bit and to develop on the point. So I will extend it.
Mike, okay? We have 36 clubs in Grenada, right? Each of the clubs that are in the Premier League received from us during COVID $30,000 each. So that's 300,000 we invested directly in the Premier League, right? Each of the conference teams, that is the next 26, received $25,000. That is separate and apart from the club development fund. Yeah. If you do the maths, almost $760,000, right, was invested directly into these clubs, and we said to them, all we want you to do is to spend it on youth football, women's football, competitions, that kind of thing. We were not micromanaging them. However, let us look at the club development fund, and let us use the first year of it. 360,000 was spent in the first year. The second year, you have to add 180,000 because we moved from 10,000 to 15,000. So 360 plus 180, that should be like 440,000 given directly to the club. Another 440 in 2020, and in 2021, 36 by 20,000, 720,000. So if the gentleman who was somewhere in Barbados was asleep while we were working, we want to remind him of some of the things we've done for football. In addition to that, we have constructed the the quarters for the sleeping in. But more importantly, the members should be reminded, and when I say members, I'm talking about my affiliates, should be reminded that we have traveled, or national teams have participated in every single competition that FIFA, CFU, or CONCACAF organized in the last 5 years. And more importantly, Michael, the days of Grenada playing against St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and Dominica in order to advance are no longer. Where we would have had to go instead, some of them had to go to Suriname, some had to go to Curacao, some had to go to El Salvador, Honduras, Bermuda. On an average, Michael, post-COVID, it is between $300,000 to $400,000 it costs for one plane ride. And I will say it openly, all of our national teams, including the youth teams, have overseas players, all. Okay. And wherever they are, once the coaches select them, we will bring them in. So it's additional funds against to bring them in. In addition to that, when I was a player, it used to be 15 players selected and 3 coaching staff, 18 persons will leave Grenada. Well, my dear friends, including members of the public who don't know, the minimum a team travels with nowadays is 32 members, 23 players and 9 officials. And that's small, because I will tell you, when Jamaica or Trinidad comes here, they will tell you plain out, they will come with almost 40 persons for a one-day game. But we have been conservative. We have not been able to travel with our nutritionists. And in some cases, we have not even been able to travel with a physiotherapist or a doctor. And that is at times when we felt it was not necessary, or we negotiated with associations that were hosting to ask them to allow us to engage a person with the expertise out there. But I say all of that to say to you, our record when it comes to the GFA and the use of its finance, if the member says that it was bad, then he should feel indicted himself, because we must stand the scrutiny of FIFA and FIFA audit. And Michael, what I'm showing you here is documents. Prior to that, it used to be one page before this president got into office. For the next 100 years, if persons take care of their financial documents, they will be able to go back and track every single one of them. And this is consistent with how I have been operating, because if you're going to hide numbers on a piece of paper and expect persons to disappear or the paper to disappear, no, that's not how we do it. We keep records, so for many years to come, people will be able to go back and see how these money was spent. What I found awkward, quickly.
By the way, on that, and is it also that, I mean, just for football fans and members of the public, if they want to scrutinize it, it's available, whether it's online or whatever it is?
Online. Oh, okay. You can just Google and you'll find it and all.
Okay, so that you're talking about, and is it that's part of the accountability process?
That is correct.
Under your leadership?
That is correct. And Michael, I want to say something to you. while I sometimes have reservation about minutes of executive committee meeting going out there in public, I don't feel the information should be held by ourselves. But what I felt awkward about in listening to someone call me this morning and tell me I should listen to the interview before I come to yours. And I will say to you something that we have to be responsible as future leaders or leaders of major associations. What was said basically, literally said to BDO, who did 2 central audits on behalf of FIFA, that their audit was not good. What that also said to PKF is that you facilitated an audit that is not accurate. But more importantly, if Leon Radix and Peter Blair were sitting next to me, they will tell you by accident, a lady at the FIFA office ran into 3 of us while we were going to take a transport and asked us where we were from. And we said Grenada. And this was her exact words. You can ask any of them outside of me. Grenada is by far one of the best associations who manages its funds and give account for it. And I'm saying to that gentleman, she's coming to Grenada as part of her own decision to visit us. Her words were, I hate the fact that we always go to countries where there is trouble. I think the time has come where we should start visiting those who are doing well. And I take credit for leading a group of people where there has been no financial scandal during my tenure in office. And I'm assuring you, while we have great plans, we have to do so responsible.
Okay. There is a question that that came up there, and Mr. Roger Duncan. Good afternoon, Mr. Joseph. Is the quality of local football players and tournaments in Grenada better today compared to 20 years ago? And give reasons for your answer or answers. And I am certain you're speaking not just as the president of the Grenada Football Association, but probably one who played national football as well.
All right. So, Roger, while I will speak the truth, I have to be prepared for the backlash because the truth is sometimes not always well received. Pong for pong, I think the early 90s or mid 90s, all of the 80s, all of the 70s, we had quality consistently, whereby there was probably no need for even one foreign-based player. That's my opinion. But I also think of why then did we get to where we're at, where we were not producing the same quality. And I will say something to you. I said to a few people before. I said it to Sepp Blatter in a meeting when I went to him. I said, Mr. President, I am of the opinion that money spoils people and money distracts people from the real objectives. And he asked me what I mean. I say, I wish you could have sent into Grenada 20 foreign coaches to come and spend 1 year and teach all of our coaches how to be as good as them. And let these same 20 coaches scout for the whole time and see talent and just send them out to clubs that they have connection with without us having any money. All we do is facilitate meetings. And I believe we would have been better off. What I have seen, Michael, and I'm being honest, many of the people who are trying to hold us accountable are not accountable to the clubs they are managing. That's a fact. That's a fact. I won't single out those who are doing well, but I will say to you, I know the many clubs who are doing well, and I know all who are not doing well. I know many whose motive are in this for the wrong reason, and the perception that they have is for the wrong reason. Going back to Roger's question, Roger, the real reality is as follows. One, even though there were 22 sports around in Grenada since I was a little boy, the focus in Grenada was primarily on 5 sports for male and maybe about 3 for female back in the day. And subject to correction, give and take 1 or 2 more. In terms of male sport, you either did track and field, football, cricket, basketball, or one of the tennis. That was primarily what people focused on as male sports. Volleyball was a pastime take, and many others. Swimming, not much men except you cross harbor when Easter Water Parade. And in women's sport, it was primarily cricket, netball, track and field, and again the 2 tennises. Today, almost every sport is doing more to try and attract more people. For example, swimming. There are lots of sporting talent in football and cricket who have gone to cricket or gone to another sport. So what you have is that challenge whereby the focus now is on a wider range of sports. Secondly, 99.9% of the person who were good sportsmen back in the day were, as people call them, not so smart, and so they didn't have a choice. When everybody else going high school, according to them people, they were out in the field training. Now, almost every one of our kid at age 12, I think, or 13, moves on to high school. But if you look at the curriculum in schools now, I think a lot of emphasis has been placed on education. And almost every teacher has some sort of assignment that takes up a lot of these kids' time. So when you look at the amount of time our kids are putting into the sport is not as much as before. Granted, even when I was in school as a little boy in primary school, and even in GBSS, they used to have what you call games period.
Games
So
period, yeah.
yeah, you had 40 minutes where you go out there and you play a sport, or there used to be men from the ministry coming into the school and they're teaching you and they identify your talent and then they pull you. That's
and then you also had physical education, and things like that. Yeah,
correct.
Right.
And then the last thing, Mr. Duncan, I will say to you, and I wish communities, I always say to my executive, we need to support Bush League a lot more. And people don't see the wisdom in what I say. The more you support Bush League, the more people will play in an informal setting, and the easier it is for the established clubs to go scouting for talent, because there are less restrictions on the Bush League structure. But many of our clubs, and I can't blame them, the Constitution says the clubs are the supreme body and the council is. And so they say, no, let's not go invest there, let's invest it directly there. But what we are doing is there's a disconnect. Now, I honestly believe in order to fix that, though, like how, Michael, you are familiar with that. I'm not sure Mr. Duncan know. For example, Queen's Park Rangers selected their teams from having a competition that used to have A Sport, B Sport, Riverbend, Coco,
Coco United.
Yeah, it was Mad Dog. You
had
hey,
don't forget Stone Killers.
You had Stone Killers. You had Living Dead. And then still now and then Cheryl.
Uptown Rebels.
Uptown Rebels, right? So everyone in the community would be involved at the different age group level. And the bigger persons like the Alistair Teleswoda and the Sprangs and others, Rado Griffith, Bumpy Griffith and them, were like our idols. So when we were not playing, we were watching them in these competitions. And many communities have kind of lost focus on these community games. I remember I played in St. Andrew. I used to play for Idlers, and there was a big competition in St. Andrew where there was about 30-something clubs. And I still used to play in Guave for Guave State, right? And again, it was a series of community teams. These things must come back so that we can spot talent earlier and then take these talent and go. And last but by no means least, though, I think the amount of social life we have now, we didn't used to have Ramrana in that time, Mr. Duncan. We didn't used to have all these hashing. We didn't used to have all these party every little minute. There was less distraction, so there was focus either on school, housework, or sport.
Mm-hmm. And looking on Cheney, there's one from St. George's Anglican Senior School. Football at all different levels without consistent football at primary and secondary it's a glaring problem. GFA needs to work with schools. Oh, I think Cheney has frozen a bit. Let me hope he gets back on there. But yeah, I think we just frozen for a moment. Cheney, if you hearing me, I think you may be hearing me. You just need to get back on board there. But it's a very important point being made. And also, don't ignore or slight the rejuvenation of the Old Trafford stimulation. Yeah, so we do find quite a few of those, leagues are coming back, the rejuvenation of the Old Trafford League. And, the point I think he is building, Roger, if I may just add, is that you know, doing the comparison is one thing, but when you look at what was available at that time, what is now, yes, social media is making a lot of inroads and taking away a lot. It's a lot of in terms of the distraction and things like that. So, but we do have, committed individuals. What the associations need to do is to see how they can, you know, correlate with those challenges, because there's no if and but about it. Social media is there and will be there, and it's there to stay. We knew growing up there wasn't the phone, there wasn't the telephone, the television and all these other things, but somehow we have those things, and and then in some instances the issue of the external exams, for example. I think someone was making the point on a program some time ago that the regional exams do not make or accommodate for the sportsmen and sportswomen. Unlike in the US, for example, with the colleges, etc., they have a big say. When it comes, sports is so important for the colleges because it brings in more money. Sports bring in more money for the colleges than probably, the tuition, for example. So that's why they do have a lot of scholarships and things like that, especially when it comes to American football, for example, baseball, softball. They bring in quite basketball. Oh my, that's why it's on national television. Some college sports rank sometimes to that of the NFL and the NFL and MLB and all these sort of things. It's very important when it comes to that NBA, college sports, because they bring in quite a sum for the schools, millions of dollars. That's why the coaches are paid millions of dollars. That's why you see some coaches will stay in and work with colleges and probably go to the NFL, because it's quite a lot for them at that level. So, but again, that's not the case in places like Grenada or the Caribbean in particular, because it's all about just the education. So the discussion recently had to do with the whole structure of the external exams and etc., and how they can work along and ensure that we do have a correlation. Well, I see Mr. Joseph is back. His video is back. I think his audio is back as well. So we'll go back to Mr. Joseph, and I think Mr. Duncan has been satisfied now with the. No, I think he's muted. So as soon as his mute is off, I think we will be able to go with Mr. Joseph. Yeah, so he's back now. Thank you very much, Cheney.
Apologies, I was speaking for the longest while.
Well, yeah. Well, I think you made a point. Is that just that I went on and asked a question, and I don't know if you. Well, it had to do with the St. Joseph, St. George's Anakim Senior School. Football at all different levels without consistent football at primary and secondary is glaring. GFA needs to work with schools.
I'm agreeing, and one of the things that we plan to do, we were speaking to the Ministry of Sport, and I must say, Cullen Peters, thanks for the relationship that exists between your ministry and the GFA. What we agree is that we're going to use the elite program as part of the process. So the elite players will be training to improve on their game, but as part of the requirement also, they will go into schools in their area in order to give service as part of that support which we and government is given. In addition to that, though, I think we really have to speak to whoever is the next government, and I'll use this one opportunity here now, if you don't mind, Michael. Government must see sports, not just football, sports as a business. And I think, genuinely speaking, there must be a consultation or some sort of symposium whereby the government meets with all associations, clubs, athletes, players, coaches, the rest of it, and let us set together a 10 to 12 year plan on how we will develop at least 4 sports, for core sports, and to produce or export professional talent.
Yeah,
I was saying,
but Cheney, but why as probably as a swimmer or swimming association will I sit down and discuss about developing four core sports and swimming or my other sport is not one of those? I
no,
mean, yeah.
no. Let me qualify.
So give clarity.
Yeah. So you're not changing the contribution or the support that is given at the Olympic level or the associations level in terms of support that government is currently given. But what we can do, because government has limited resources, we can identify areas based on the kind of people we are making here in Grenada. I'll just use an example. It would be 1 in a million to produce a 7-foot athlete here in Grenada, but it is highly likely that we could get a few 6 foot 2 inches, 6 foot 3 inches, and create one of the best beach volleyball team the world might see. Right? I'm just saying to you, I do not know the sport. Right? Maybe football might not be one of them. I don't know, but I'm just saying. I think the resources that government put into a lot of things could be more effective if we identify where we want to go as a country, as an association, as a people in sport, and use that. And I say to you, very simple, this is the only time I will agree with a certain individual. The Jamaica model in terms of success in sports, the Jamaica model, and to a lesser extent, I will say the Barbados model, is a model that we probably can look at and try to grow the sport. For example, I'll just say to you, Michael, the business community do not see contributing to sports as really an investment. They see it as part of their corporate responsibility. And I am saying that we have to get them to start saying, no, it's not just a corporate responsibility, but let us see it as an investment. I give credit to, I think, 2 or 3 insurance companies who say their focus is on the art and culture, right? And they are seeing the benefits of those investments. So I'm just saying others. And last but by no means least, Michael, along that line, government should say to especially those businesses who are making over $1 million in net profit, if you can give 10% of that to sporting association or contribute to sports, we will give you concessions to the sum of, and see it as a win-win. These are the kind of talk I feel that has to take place. I'm not in government, but I am hopeful that we can see the benefits of some of these ideas.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when those things come up, it fires me back to the whole issue of the national sports policy. And I'm a disciple of the national sports policy and the implementation of a national sports policy, and all that you're saying there is part of the national sports policy. There are 2 other things I want to talk about, because you mentioned earlier, and I said, let me see if I can get it in there. You mentioned about your opponent, your challenger, and things like that. So, what sort of relationship, Cheney, do you have with the person who is challenging you for the presidency of the Grenada Football Association?
Okay, so you ask me what is, so that means you're talking present.
Well, if there is, I mean, I'm hoping.
I will say to you, I will say to you, the gentleman has not spoken to me since he's come to Grenada. I don't know how long he's been in Grenada. I think maybe a few months ago, but he has never spoken to me. The one time I saw him in person, we were both taking a sweat in Marion, and we were on the same team. I think we were the 2 better players on the field of play at the time. Prior to that, I thought we had a great relationship. Excellent, I would think. I mean, that's from my perspective I'm speaking.
And why you think you all had an excellent relationship?
I will just give you what is referred to as breaking news. When FIFA new president took place, I knew they were coming with the regional office. I knew everything. I mean, I had first-hand information based on my relationship.
Cheney, I think we may have lost you for a moment again, and I hope you. I think it's a bit windy where Cheney is, and for some reason,
Sorry,
um,
my
we
apologies. My
we
apologies.
keep
I'm
losing
losing.
you. Okay, and
Yeah,
I hope that encounter is not something that says a lot. Okay, I'm just hoping. So once you fix your camera and thing, I need to see. I think you need to center yourself and get you back on board. You sort of away from the camera. I need to get your head. Don't. I leaving you there. So.
is that good?
It's good. I hope you're good now and you're not nervous or anything based on what you were saying. But it was. I was.
Michael, just in case we don't have videos to show, but let me just let you know, when it came to big moments, Grenada relied on Cheney for 15 years.
So tell me what you were saying there regarding that relationship and what you consider to be an excellent relationship, Cheney.
Well, okay, I'll just say to you, when I first started communicating with the gentleman, I tried to get him to be on my slate. That was when I ran against Ram Folks and lost by 1 vote. I think that was in 2008. However, he did not opted to run on my side, but we maintained relationship. And when the new FIFA president came on board, because of my relationship with many people inside there, and I knew they were going to be establishing the regional office and filling the office, I then used some of my influence. And I will admit something to you, and only this morning we were speaking about it. The very first candidate that I had considered was Cajetan Hood for the job. And when I approached Cajetan Hood, he was not prepared to give up the position of Attorney General of Grenada. So I then I looked, and then I went back to Kaji and I asked him to recommend someone to me. And Kaji recommended that gentleman. And I then asked him to send me a CV, which he did, and I sent it off to those persons I needed to send it to, and they said, Cheney, I like it. So they then told me to let him proceed with the formal application. And he didn't apply. I knew it was, I told him plain out when he sent it to me the first time. I say, boss, based on the feedback, we good to go. And, because I know we have a good relationship, I never really felt I had to be in his face all the time, because others were feeling empowered or, feeling great about it. And we will touch base from time to time. In fact, I will say something to you in case you don't know. Prior to the lockdown, I think March 26th last year was when Grenada locked down. I went to Barbados on March 21st, and my visa was issued on the 24th of March. Right? And the nights I stayed in Barbados, originally I was going to go in a hotel. The gentleman kept me up, and I stayed by him until I left to come back to Grenada. And one day after I returned to Grenada, they shut the borders and no one could travel. So I was privileged to stay at his house during that time. In addition to that, we kept in contact by telephone. I will say to you, while I may not call names here, many of his wishes that he expressed to me, we worked together, and I said, okay, partner, all right, I give in to you on that one. Meaning requests on individuals and things like that, support for individuals here and things like that. But when persons were telling me he was going to run against me, I didn't believe them, because I told them plain out, the relationship I thought we had, I don't expect him to do that without kind of giving me a hint, hey, partner, them people forcing me are going to run against you, But he didn't. But the truth is, Michael, this is not a closed activity. I think he has a right to do it, but I'm a little concerned, and I'm curious about one thing. Was he really managing Grenada, or was he facilitating the management of Grenada? I'm not in a position to answer. because the one thing I heard him say, which is unfortunate, it seemed like it's only 4 things we did in the 5 years he was there. I know. I mean, the people in football will be able to tell me otherwise.
So you were basically, in a nutshell, if I can, you're saying therefore that you were the influencer and the recommender. Is that
Without
what you
a
were
doubt.
saying?
I mean, I'm not afraid to say it. Without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And but going into the election, Cheney, there's no bad blood between you two folks.
Nah, there shouldn't be.
And that's what I'm saying. Okay.
There shouldn't be. Let me just say that to you.
But are there people who making it out to be as if there is?
I think people would want him and I to be enemies. I can assure Marlon that beyond June the 11th, we'll have a drink together, whether I am on top or you behind. But I feel more confident I'll be there. So I'm guaranteeing you, Marlon, we'll have a drink and we'll continue the kind of discussions we used to have in the past. There's no bad blood. We were just in a race and we're preparing for it.
Okay. The final thing, Cheney, now it has to do with social media. And I'm asking that in the context of people get to know a lot about football and what's happening in football through social media, and more so because of what you're doing. You're only the president, an elected president, and to some extent is almost like a figurehead, even though you get the opportunity to speak, because you say your hands are really tied in terms of the Constitution, etc., etc. But why it is that, apart from yourself and to an other lesser extent, probably Alan James, we do not see people who are in leadership position of football using even social media. I'm not saying they have to follow you, okay? But I see some of them quick to criticize you. They quick to criticize you on social media, but not coming with what I would say are the alternative facts. So there was one who was saying, Cheney, you know that is not true. So they were criticizing you. It's not true. But at the same time, they're not saying what is true. What are the facts? So it's all well and good to see if Cheney is saying these are the facts. It's all well good to say, Cheney, what you're saying is not true, but here are the facts. I'm countering with the facts. I mean, but the question is why it is that from these sports administrators, these football administrators, we do not see, and I'm saying again, they do not have to be the Cheney Joseph, they do not have to be the Alan James, but why it is they do not even promote football or promote the sport, even in their communities, for example.
Well, I would say, first of all, Mike, some of these people, you have to forgive them because, I mean, some of them wants to be administrators, and the manner in which they are getting on social media is not necessarily the best. That's an advice I give them. It's not the best for if you are going to lead organizations such as the GFA. Secondly, even when you have a different view, you can provide alternative to the view that is expressed by the other person. I heard one person say, for example, this morning, that FIFA gave instruction to reduce the fees, so that's why fees. BS. Michael, I said to my executive, I do not see why we are charging clubs $4,000 and $3,000 to participate in GFA competition. They still have a set of monies to pay for transport and the match. When I became president, by the way, Michael, in case you don't know, the Premier League was getting $12,000, the winner. Today, $60,000. Right? Now, I am saying to them, anything that I say that is not accurate, bring to the public or to anyone the truth. But I'll say something to you that many people don't know. One of those persons always quick to apologize. Sorry, I didn't have the facts. And maybe he doesn't have the facts even now. Secondly, though, it's something I observe, and I always say we can use social media for good or for bad. I choose to use it for good. And I feel it's an obligation on my part until our communication arms reach to that level to inform people about things that we are doing in football. Simply because if I don't do it and no one else does it, no one knows we're doing it. We used to have a newsletter, a monthly newsletter called Goalposts. Every week that used to go out. We don't have it again, but I am hopeful that June 12th onwards, I said to one or two of my colleagues, judge me for my action and not my words. And I'm saying from June 12th, we will make some changes that is necessary, and we won't wait too long to have these adjustments made to improve on the delivery of football.
Okay, well, and finally, and on that point, Cheney, I must say, regarding the social media, because we all know that because of your posting on social media during the Gold Cup, for example, that the Fox Sports commentators were able to have a lot of information regarding Grenada football that they actually use and read even verbatim at times, word for word, on players, for example, Benjamin Etienne, for example, is one example, because you were able to do that,
I just want to make reference to something. You can ask the person who scouted Benjamin what led to him initiating that. The only person who was next to me at the time when that was happening was Alan James. That's all I say for that.
Okay. The power of social media. When does the 2022 GFA season start? From
our season runs August. Our season normally run August to April.
Yeah, August now instead of the May. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. The one who is saying the president is wrong never meet with his club for 8 years, and he is a parish representative. Thanks for participating, CJ. Cheney, the final thing to you now is that, we know it's June 11th is the election date. You already reached out to your affiliates, and you sound a bit confident. I say final, but something they post up there. But you sound a bit confident, Cheney. How confident is Cheney Joseph in terms of retaining the presidency of the Grenada Football Association?
I'll say the following to you. This is not Cheneymatics. This is not Malonatics. This is work delivered, proven, and a track record that proves to itself. I have not been in this for the glitz and glamour or the flying of plane. I've been in it because I love the sport. The sport has been good to me, and the sport has partially contributed to my success in personal life. What I will say to you at this point in time, I am confident that more than the required amount to become the president is seeing what has been done and what will be done. And I will say to you, last but by no means least, the only opponents I will expect are those with a personal vendetta, or those who came to me asking for personal favors, and I said to them, that's not in my DNA. Michael, I just want to say one last thing on that same subject. I have managed a company for the last 23 years. I have also had to do audit. The staff knows me and knows what I stand for. And I will say to you two things in going off. If it ain't true, don't say it. And secondly, do it right the first time, and you will never have to apologize. I say all of that to say we have smart people in GFA, but we also have disgruntled people in GFA. And I think the smart people way outnumber the disgruntled. That's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Well, football is lucky to have you, Rondell Frederick Johnson, saying that. Speaking, Mr. President, well, yeah, and He says, they say I'm a yes man of Mr. Joseph Thompson. Yeah, well, these things do happen. These things are said sometimes. If you agree with someone, you believe to be a yes man. But Cheney, are there folks in the your current executive who are not going up for re-election or anything like that? They're not part of the team of any team, whether it's Team
Well,
Unity or Team Team
right.
Resistance.
So it's 11 of us on the executive. The other side, the resistance side, I'm not sure if it's revolutionary or otherwise, but the resistance might be the Sandinista. They have the support of four of the members. Two of that four are running for election, I understand. Two of the four. On Team Unity side, we have seven of the incumbents: Peter Blair, Leon Radix, Wayne Francis, Jester Noel, Luther Rennie, Alan James, and myself. Seven of the existing executive are running on my side. We have the newcomer in Simo, Jelani Glean, experience in what he does, and Mr. Chassie Henry, former permanent secretary in the Ministry of Health before he retired.
And not forgetting the the
Yeah,
women's.
sorry, and I keep always leaving her for last. And the Queen of Ace, Queen of Diamond, Queen of Spade, and Queen of everything in football, Kazira Thomas. I won't
All right.
call us the dream team. I'll call us the unity team.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Cheney, and I want to wish you all the best. And I want to wish football all the best, I should say. At the end of the day, it's the hope that football, the winner is not any one in particular. And as someone said, if football comes out better at the end of the process, well, great, because that's what we're hoping that folks are there for the good of the game, for the good of the sport, for the development of the sport, and not to satisfy egos because you're disgruntled. And I had to make that point, Cheney, because it appears that some people get into sports administration, and I want to lead on that, because they disgruntled over something, because they did not. For example, I know of people who wanted to get into the GFA, many years
I
ago,
can
and I
say to
say
you,
many years
Mike, I
ago,
can say to you
because
without
they did
calling
not
a story.
they did not got the job of coach, for example, and these sort of things,
But that's what I was
and
going to tell you.
yeah, and
Most of
this
the persons, and it's not a lot, by the way, I want to say that to you, and people will be surprised. The public will be surprised at the result because the general public knows best. They know who was the agitator, they know why they agitated, they know those who approached me, the president, and asked me to give their wife job, those who wanted general secretary and the rest of it. And I said to them, that's not how we operate. I can't operate like that. I'm transparent. Because, Michael, to be honest, I represent two good brands in Grenada. I represent the brand Tropical Shipping, apart from football, sorry. I represent the brand Tropical Shipping, and it's a unique, successful brand. I also represent a brand called George F. Huggins, which is a unique, successful brand. And these two brands mean a lot to me. These two brands have a lot to lose if I should do things the way some of these people wanted it to do. Just before we go, though, Mike, I must ask you a question. Forgive me for trying to take over your program. Liverpool or Real Madrid? Where do you stand?
I will stick with Liverpool because Real Madrid didn't treat us well. Manchester City. Yeah. I will stick with Liverpool. I'll stay the English side.
Well, I have to be careful for me because I'll tell you what. One of my better friends in Grenada here insists that Real Madrid is winning, and he's one of my better friends. And then I have another friend who insists Liverpool is going to be there. So this is how I'm going to say it. I expect it to be a great game. I would have liked for Manchester United to win, but unfortunately they're not playing. So I think the tournament might stay wherever a team is playing in red, if any of them play in red today.
Okay. You said Manchester United, who not even in the Champions League. Well, Chelly, we'll talk about that another time. They're not even in the Champions League. You're talking about Europa, you know.
But I know what is loyalty, so I'm not going
all
away.
right. Okay. I understand that. Right. Thanks, Kelvin Hector. Hey, Coco Shot, good afternoon to you. You said it all the best luck going forward. Mona, I want to see football go forward. No nepotism. Certainly, I think he was referring to what you were talking about earlier. Gordon say Liverpool, and you never walk alone. Roger says, great program, Michael. When are you interviewing the other side? Well, Roger, probably I'll say it for a third time. I said it in the introduction, I said it halfway, and I'm saying it again, that the invitation to what you were referring to the other side was extended even before an invitation was extended to Mr. Joseph. And I said the reason why is because Mr. Joseph has been on the program before. He has been there many times. So there was I decided to invite the other side onto the program even before I reached out to Mr. Joseph, in all fairness. And the response was, and I'm reading it to you. Good day, Michael. I have discussed your offer with our team, and unfortunately, we think it's best not to accept at this time. I can't, listen, you don't have to come on the program. No one mandating you to come on the program, but the fact is I reached out, okay? So I want to make it clear. It's that I reached out to, and I think it was all fair to do it, whether I think of whatever I think about. But they declined, and so be it. I could only hope that they have reasons why. But again, I'm making the point that I believe it has to do with personal issues. I make no, I don't hide to say that I knew Cheney. We grew up together. We went to school together, live in the same community, etc., etc. Okay, we're very close.
Same house at school.
Yeah, Cheney's, Maguire gave a lot of points to Maguire. Cheney's mom, may her soul rest in peace, and my mom were best of friends, etc., etc. So, we know each other, and I make no excuse for that. But at the same time, it doesn't take away that we have respect for each other's in terms of the professional thing, okay? And as I said, if there are times we don't, be on the same page, and that's all well and good, we handle it professionally though. And, so if I'm being punished because there's a belief that I am friends with Cheney, I have no apologies for that. As far as when it comes to sports, I'm friends with everyone, There are a lot of people who we don't see eye to eye on different things. And I reach out to them, invite them to come and talk or whatever it is, but it's just on the basis of sports and what we want to discuss. I'm not there. And I always say it's not so much an interview, it's a discussion, okay? Look at our little friend, Hazel, Christina Buckles, the daughter of Hazel and Regis, who was on our program last. And it was just a nice sit down and discuss and things like that. Look at our athletes in Jamaica, for example, who we talk to and things like that. And the idea is to hear from them, and things like that. Help in some instance in their public speaking, because from time to time they will go in and, have interaction with the international media and things like that. So, and we want to make sure that we give them a platform where they can be speaking, to, media folks, answering questions, even speaking to you folks who are putting in questions, etc., etc. Thanks very much. I really appreciate. Okay. So, yeah, right. So it's off now to football, and there's track and field as well, and other sporting events. This here is endemic of many organizations in Grenada, sports and culture. Clev, you said it right. That's the problem we have. You know it for a fact. Culture as well, because whether it's pan, whether it's sports, we have this culture where, because people believe that you have a relationship with someone or you speak to someone, they take it too personal. It's all about egos. And I think sports deserves better. And we need people in administration of sports who are mature and who are really thinking about what is their mission in sports. We don't have any professional sporting organization in Grenada. Football, in this case, is probably the only organized sport with, a structure in terms of a secretariat and assets and buildings, etc., etc. Okay, and therefore we need people who are serious about the development of sport, who are willing to lead, etc. And I want to thank you, Cheney, for your commitment, your support, for sports and things like that. So, and especially football, they are scared of the public scrutiny. Thompson Cado, you probably know something that I don't know. That's the problem they got with me. Well, that's thing, friends for 30 plus years, I guess, with Cheney. Okay, school as well. Yeah, we all went to school together and things like that. So I could understand why, that is the case. But I want to thank you for accepting the invitation. I know you were busy at the time, but you made it back. And I thank you for always answering the call for service, right? Thank you very much, Jenny.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And if I can close by saying best of luck to the teams playing this evening. St. George versus St. George versus St. Andrew, as well as.
By the way, give us a little of what time and all the matches at the stadium.
I may get it wrong, but I believe the first game is 6:30, and then the other game will most likely take place 2 hours later. So I believe it's 6:30 and 8:30, or 6 and 8, one and the two.
And both games being played at the Kirani
James Stadium, yeah.
Okay.
I won't attempt to say anything, but it's ironic that even St. Patrick themselves were worried that they would even make the playoff, and here it is, they are in the final, and they used a very young team because they're missing a lot of players from one of the clubs in St. Patrick because of whatever reason. They felt they should not encourage, or they encouraged the players not to play. Today, St. Patrick is, in fact, benefiting from that experience. I'm so glad.
Well, it says a lot too. But at least football is being played. That's the thing about it.
And the crowd, I know the young ladies will be out there watching these guys play. Mike, continue your work to your audience. Thanks. Mr. Duncan, we welcome that relationship with the bank. I know it's not an ad, but I guarantee you we're going to keep that relationship going, sir. And for all your viewers and listeners, Mike, I always say to people, and I say it openly, it's not how often we speak, but when we speak, what we say. And you and I know the friendship is there. Likewise, Cado and others, even though we don't always speak every day. Thank you, and God bless you and others. And I do hope my opponents, the Unity team, will also get a chance to come and redeem themselves, even though they chose not to in the first instance.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, Cheney, and all the best. And certainly, we'll hear from you and others after June 11th, despite the outcome.
And don't forget, June 7th, Grenada play El Salvador here in Grenada. It's important.
Yeah, and for the folks who are in the United States, I think the Grenada goes to Austin, Texas. They go to Austin, Texas. Is it in June as well, right? Later in June?
Yeah, the 10th of June.
Oh, so you have 2 matches before the election, right?
Yeah, unfortunately I cannot be there because it would be an indictment on me. 1 day before the election, I would have liked to see us play live, but it's what it is.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Cheney. All the best. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Then. Okay. So, folks, you heard it there from Mr. Cheney Joseph. It was longer than we expected, but the reasons, was specifically because we wanted to cover a number of issues, and then some of the questions came up from you, the public, from the audience, and we wanted to get that answered. But I want to thank Mr. Joseph, the incumbent president of the Grenada Football Association, who is going up for a re-election come June 11th. He has been making the case, as he indicated as well, that he's very confident of retaining the presidency. He's not daunted by the social media endorsements, etc. But he has been, as he indicated, he has been meeting with the people who are making the decisions. These are the affiliates, because remember, I can put a social media endorsement, but I wouldn't be the person on June 11th casting that vote. Okay, so what he is saying is that he is confident because he has been meeting with the people, directly with the people who have to make that decision. But it's secret ballots, and what can happen. Well, I think I'm subject to correction. I don't know if secret ballot, but whatever it is, people can change their minds and things like that. So, but he is confident of that. At the same time, though, I must say that, and as I indicated, that I have reached out to the other side to hear from them. Sad enough, I thought it would have been on a professional level, just to come and discuss and say what are your plans, etc., etc., and just have a cordial discussion about football, what you see, the plans for football. Even if you want to highlight what are the, why you think you can make a difference in football. I mean, that's your prerogative. I mean, we have had other sporting associations with different sides coming on the program for and against and things like that. So, that's, I don't want to get too caught up with that and carried away about that. That's bygone. My thing is about encouraging our sportsmen, our sports administrators, highlighting, etc., etc. And the invitation is always there if you want to come and talk about it. Anyone from the other side of the team unity who wants to come and discuss, that's fine. But I'm just saying that we need sports administrators who are mature and who do not take things personal, because my thing is that if that is the start of things to come, what do you expect in the future? Because you do not like someone, or you believe someone is friends with a person that whatever. And my thing is that be even soak into the administration itself in football, because if you believe that this person in this club didn't support you during the election, etc., etc., then you probably sideline them and these sort of things. That is not good for sports administration. Okay, that is not good for sports administration, and across the board, whether it's football, cricket, basketball, whatever, it's not good. We need sports administrators who are mature and who are committed to the cause for the development of the sport and the development of their constituents, which is the sportsmen and sportswomen. That is what it is. And not about satisfying egos, not about because you're disgruntled over something, you're going in there, no, it shouldn't be that. Okay. Thank you very much, folks, for being part of the program. It's first Saturday in a very long time. We may have another Saturday before, we return to the midweek, but I want to thank you for that. And as you see, I'm in New York for this week. I'll be back on the road sometime. I don't know exactly where. It could be somewhere different. Hopefully I'm back in the same place, and we'll be able to continue. Thank you very much, all of you folks, Gordon and others. I want to thank you, Mona Thompson Kado, Clev, Roger Duncan, Calvin Hector, Rondell, Frederick Johnson, and all those who provided comments. I want to thank you for always supporting the program. The invitation is yours to join me next week for another program. Until then, I want you to continue having a pleasant weekend.